so that I don't. There we go. So the last time I did this a couple days ago, and I forgot to hit the button. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to make sure that I do it right now so that I don't forget it again. I want to welcome everybody that's here right now. And I want to welcome all of you to, again, what I hope will be a very informative experience for all of us. I was at the Nazi concentration camps of Auschwitz, Treblinka, Magdanek, and Plaszow about a month ago, and it was an incredibly life-changing experience. Everything that I do going forward will be part of my daily experience of reliving and holding on to the memory of what I experienced at the camps and what I experienced on that trip. And it's a lifelong journey, and that's the title of my presentation today, is the importance of memory. It is a lifelong journey. It is something that I've been doing now since I was about 10 years old, and I remember being in Hebrew school and learning about it in Hebrew school way back in the early 1980s, and now here I am in 2022. And continuing the process of lifelong learning. It's extremely important, especially now when the Holocaust survivors are in their 80s and 90s, for all of us to remember and to keep the memory alive for those people that perished in the Holocaust and for the survivors as well. So again, I want to welcome everybody to this presentation. And again, my goal is to explain my process over a lifetime and a lifetime of learning about the Holocaust. So in that direction, let me begin. And I'm going to start with my screen here. I'm sharing my screen. Okay. So here we go. Again, the importance of memory, a lifetime of learning and teaching the lessons of the Holocaust. And if you go to the Holocaust Memorial Museum in Washington, D.C., this is on the front of the building. This is a quote by General and President Dwight D. Eisenhower as he toured one of the camps of one of the concentration camps when it was liberated. So April 12th, 1945, in Ohrdruf concentration camp, the things I saw beggared description. The visual evidence and the verbal testimony of starvation, cruelty, and bestiality were so overpowering as to leave me a bit sick. I made the visit deliberately in order to be in a position to give firsthand evidence of these things, if ever in the future there develops a tendency to charge these allegations merely to propaganda. So again, Dwight D. Eisenhower. And again, as I go through this process, this is something that I am now a witness to also. It is important, of course, to see the movies, Schindler's List, of course, or The Pianist, but to be at Auschwitz, to be at Magdanek or Treblinka was a totally otherworldly experience. It was an experience that, again, will be a part of my daily life going forward. And you know, whenever I look at another trip that I ever take in the rest of my life, I'll look at them as a gift because of what I experienced here at these camps. So as I begin, again, let's go through the process here. And this is the first book that I ever had as a child, learning about the Holocaust, Hitler's war against the Jews. And it's amazing how every single book that I've ever read, or every curriculum that I've ever read about the Holocaust, really talks about the same thing. It talks about the rise of Adolf Hitler, how people were mesmerized by his speaking, how people got into what he was doing, read the book Mein Kampf, and leading up to all of the things that happened during the 1930s with the book burning and the discrimination against Jews, leading to Kristallnacht and then, of course, leading into World War II. So there is a process. It did not just start with gas chambers and crematoria. It started with discrimination. It started with prejudice, discrimination, hatred, stereotyping. And it was a constant thing over those years. The propaganda that was against Jews was a continuing process that lasted for the first 8 or 9 years leading into the Holocaust. Or I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. From the time that he wrote the book Mein Kampf, and then taking power, and then leading into World War II. So during the 1980s, as I was growing up and as a teenager, these are some of the films that I remember seeing as a teenager. The Shoah 6-hour video. Remember seeing that on PBS and thinking, wow, look at this for interviews with the perpetrators, with the survivors, with bystanders. And really, and again, as this picture shows, the train conductors and what they went through, as well as people that were the barbers at Treblinka. A very powerful film. And there's no documentary like it as far as at that time, because the documentary does not show images of the Holocaust. It shows the images of the concentration camps in the aftermath, or it shows, again, the interviews with different people. And it was, again, very powerful experience to watch that as a teenager. Memory of the Camps, another video that I've seen on PBS many times. I've shown this to pretty much every single class over the years. And this story is the liberation of Bergen-Belsen and what British soldiers found when they liberated Bergen-Belsen. Just a hell on earth where thousands of people were starved to death and then put into humongous pits. And they show that in this film. And every time I've seen it over the years, it's like watching it for the first time again. It's so powerful, so gripping, and so dehumanizing that when I show it to my students, there's always a conversation afterwards about, how do you feel right now? How do you feel watching this? How do you feel about the idea of what people went through and the lack of humanity that people had during that time to allow this to happen? So again, it's always a very powerful conversation that I have with my students, seeing the memory of the camps. And then in about 1981, 1982, I remember going to an arts theater with my mom and dad and seeing this film Genocide, which was released by the Simon Wiesenthal Center in, again, about the early 1980s. It was narrated by Elizabeth Taylor and Orson Welles. And this film, again, goes through the history of Nazi Germany from the time Adolf Hitler takes power through Kristallnacht and then into the camps. Very gripping, very powerful. Again, as an 11 or 12-year-old to watch that, it left a mark. It left a very powerful impression on me for many years to come. Going through my teenage years, my parents sent me to Israel in 1990. So I was 18 years old, and I was at Yad Vashem on this trip to Israel in 1990. And this trip to Israel, again, changed my life considerably. I am a history teacher now. I'm a Holocaust teacher now because of this experience at Yad Vashem. Now, I don't remember anything about the museum itself. I can't tell you what was in it. I don't remember, but I do remember walking through the children's exhibit. And again, I walked in as one person and I walked out as another. So anybody that has never been there before, what happens is you walk into a completely darkened space in the picture on the left. And when you walk in, you see what looks like thousands of stars in the sky. And that's what I remember. I remember walking in, holding on to railings, not being able to see my hand in front of my face, but seeing all these reflections and what looked like thousands of stars in the sky. And there's a voice that comes overhead, and that voice tells the name of a child, the age of a child, and where the child was from. So to hear that over and over again. Now I'm 18 years old and I hear the names of 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 2 years old, 16-year-old. And it hit me like a rock. It hit me like a rock to experience that room. And again, I walked out as a different person. So here's a little 3-minute video of that experience of being in the children's exhibit at Yad Vashem.
The concept of a single candle that reflected into infinity, which you experienced in infinite space.
Immanuel Yakovetsky, 5 years old, Ukraine. Paula Colin, 12 years old, Poland.
Anna Rivka Yosipovich, 5 years old, Hungary.
Jeanette Alman, 6 years old, France.
Svetlana Mishlimovich, 3 years old, Russia.
We walked through the reflecting candles into infinity, and then emerged out into daylight, into life, into the view of the skyline of Jerusalem.
Frida Pukin, 16 years old, Latvia.
Herbert Green, 13 years old, Austria.
Nicole Baer, 3 jaar oud, Frankrijk. Adolf André Fleischer, בן 13, צרפת. Hinda Livshitz, 15 years old, Ukraine.
The unique experience of the Children Memorial, Yad Layeled, is that it envelopes you and surrounds you 360 degrees, and it gives you the opportunity to be inspired by what you hear and what you see, to listen to the names, to listen to the music, and together to be inspired and to take a unique experience for life.
So again, that experience of being in that children's exhibit was so overwhelmingly powerful, changing my life, always thinking about, I remember going into the bus and going back to my hotel after being in the children's exhibit and thinking, I have to do something with this. I have to learn more about this. I need to make this a part of my lifetime experience. And again, at that point, I didn't know how. In 1994, I saw the movie Schindler's List, which most people saw in when the movie came out. Very powerful film about what one person can do, and that became such a again an idea of what one person is capable of. The idea of life, and at the end of the movie, when they give Schindler, a person that saved 1,200 people, they give him this ring. He who saves one person saves the world in time. And I remember that scene so well that he breaks down and says, I could have sold this pin and gotten 2 more people. I could have sold this car and gotten 10 more people. And the idea that, what is a life worth? I always ask my students that, what is your life worth? And there is no answer to that question. But yet during the years of the Holocaust, that became the be all and end all, what we can buy with money, your lives, our lives, and the importance of how important each and every person is. Even people that, you look at the movie Schindler's List, that he was a womanizer and, he was using Jews as slave laborers for the first part of the movie. but he did something miraculous, and that is saving 1,200 people. It's just an incredible story in that respect. So again, in 1997, I graduated from college at Temple University, and I became a history teacher. And 5 years or 6 years after that, after I became a teacher in Philadelphia, I had the pleasure of meeting Barbara Shaman. And this experience of meeting Barbara Shaman changed my life forever. I met her at the Adams Mark Hotel on City Line Avenue. And the first conversation, we had lunch together, and the first conversation we ever had together, we had a connection that has lasted us now for 18 years, and she's like a second mom. In fact, whenever I talk to her, I'm like, hi, Mom, because she is such an amazing woman and has done so much for so many people, including in my career. Just to give you a little background, Barbara Shaman created the Champions of Caring organization, championsofcaring.org. And what this program does, it shares the idea that we have to learn about the past so that we can make changes in the future, and the idea that one person can make a difference, whether it's a parent that is, a single parent. And whenever I ask that question, who's a hero in your lives? A lot of my students are living with a one-parent family, and they always say, well, my mom. And sometimes I don't even realize what she does for me, but she works 2 jobs, and she's taking care of the house, and she cooks, and she does all this. Again, the importance of what one person can do. And that's what this program is all about. It makes kids their age, 15, 16, 17 years old, it makes them think about their communities. It makes them think about how they can change the world one person at a time. And through my organization, through my work with Barbara Shaman, this is the curriculum that I've worked with Barbara. This is called the Journey of a Champion High School program. And again, let's just take a look, an opportunity for young people to discover themselves, explore their communities, meet the past, and map their future. So one thing that is a universal for all of my students' lives, for all of our lives, is the concept of suffering. We can all understand that. That's something that we can all empathize with, the idea of suffering and how that plays a role in all of our lives. And a lot of times we don't realize, my students especially too, being an inner city teacher, a lot of my students, they don't realize how everybody suffers. It's not just one group. It's a lot of different groups, and there's suffering on many scales. But it's the idea of creating empathy, compassion, sympathy for others, so that when they do social change and they work in their communities, they're not looking at race. They're not looking at religion. They're not looking at somebody's gender or sexual identity. They're doing this as a project for people. And that, again, that becomes so powerful in their lives that when they look at that and they look back on it, they say, wow, we made a difference. And my kids have made an incredible difference over the years. So here's Barbara working with some of my classes over the years. She's been in my classroom to share her story. Her mom was a sole survivor of 65 people of Auschwitz. And her father worked for Auschwitz-Schindler, and her father and grandmother were the only survivors on his side of the family. So she is a child of survivors, and again, just an incredible woman who has worked so hard to change the lives of so many thousands of kids in the Philadelphia area over the years. So because of her program, I had the opportunity over the years to take a lot of my kids to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. This was an incredible experience. I think over the years, I've taken about 500 kids to the Holocaust Museum in Washington. And it's life-changing for them because they get to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and they go down to Washington, they walk through the museum, and they have an incredible experience. So that was 2006. This is 2010. A few of my different pictures of my kids going down on the buses and having, again, an incredible experience when they were at the museum. My students were written up in the Jewish Exponent back in 2006, in the second year that we went. to discuss, again, inner city kids from Kensington going to the Holocaust Museum and experiencing and talking about their experiences to reporters to be in the Jewish Exponent. And without a doubt, one of the most incredible experiences that I ever had working with Barbara is, again, the idea of creating change within our school. And my regular education students partnered up with autistic students that were they're in a separate wing of the building. And, there was never any connection between our kids and the autistic kids that are in our building. And what we did, me and Miss Deppenschmidt, who is one of our autistic teachers in our building, we combined together and we created friendships between these kids. And kids that I had that never did anything in class came alive. It was incredible to watch how my students who had really were, they were sleeping in class, they were apathetic, they weren't doing anything. And then all of a sudden we start interacting with the autistic classes and they came alive. Wow, what a powerful, powerful moment that was. And again, people that were involved in that, they still say, I'm Facebook friends with a lot of the kids that were involved, and they still say that was the greatest experience they ever had in high school, was meeting with the autistic kids and becoming friends with them. In 2006, 2007, I wrote my master's degree thesis on the program, on Barbara's program, Champions of Caring, using the title, using a tolerance-based education program to help reduce prejudice, discrimination, and hatred. And again, going through the years a little bit, in 2012, my students were really affected by the Sandy Hook shooting and the kids that were involved in the Sandy Hook shooting. And we decided that we were going to make an entire box of hundreds of paper plate butterflies. So here's these kids, tough inner city kids. And here they are making paper plate butterflies to send to the kids in Sandy Hook. Beautiful, beautiful experience. Again, the kids that were involved in that still remember that experience of making the butterflies, sending them off, and having like a big event in the auditorium to talk about what was going on and to share that experience with them. And again, a couple of their little butterflies there that they made. So again, tough inner city kids making these. It was really great. Again, the experience that I had in 2013. So I talked about the autistic classes and how important that was. But here, this experience will stay with me forever. We had 4 Holocaust survivors that are in the front there, and they were working with about 8 of our kids every single Friday for about 2 hours a day. Our freshman kids, 14 years old, are interacting with the survivors, and they were listening to their stories, and they were participating, and they got to know them, and the survivors got to know my kids. And you would think that there was no connections between inner city African American and Latino kids with Holocaust survivors, but the faces say it all. The faces say it all. It was just such a remarkable experience of bridging the gap of having connections between Holocaust survivors and inner city kids. Was without a doubt one of the greatest experiences of my entire career. And because of that experience, I was honored with a Teacher of the Year award from Champions of Caring through Barbara's organization. It's a wonderful experience. And these are the films that I show inside of my classroom over the last 20 years, including Hotel Rwanda, which I haven't spoken about yet, The Pianist, and Oprah Winfrey at the Auschwitz death camp with Elie Wiesel, and Freedom Writers, which I just showed to a few of my classes this past week. And finally, going into my experience at Auschwitz and Treblinka, Magdanek, and Plazov. And on November 2nd, 2022, I boarded the plane. Here's the plane boarding. I took a picture of that just to get the party started. And the first full day that I was there in Krakow, I went to Auschwitz. This was a tough experience, being at Auschwitz, being at all of the camps. They all have their own energy. They all have their own feelings about them. They all have their own kind of vibe. And to be on the grounds of Auschwitz I is Auschwitz I and Auschwitz-Birkenau. And we'll see Birkenau in a couple of minutes. Birkenau is about 3 miles away from this camp. Now, being here, this is the first thing that I saw when you go into Auschwitz I, you see the Arbeit macht frei gate. And whatever video I have ever seen, there's two things that always come up: the Arbeit macht frei gate and the guard tower that leads into Auschwitz-Birkenau, and the train that leads through there. Those are the two things that always come up. But to stand there and see it, wow. There are no words to express it. Just, I'm standing there at this point, and I'm going to walk through the gates. And what I was very shocked about was how really small and compact Auschwitz I was. It's 28 buildings, and the 28 buildings are neatly aligned in a row, as we can see here in this picture, surrounded by a double barbed wire fences all the way around the camp. But this is Auschwitz I. It's just these big, humongous buildings that are just neatly in a row. So Auschwitz I is the museum. And the first, oh my God, moment, besides seeing the gate when I walked through the gate, was seeing the gas cans of Zyklon B. To see that picture, to experience that, right behind the glass, and knowing what that was, I got chills. When I saw that case of those cans, and knowing what those cans did. Very powerful just to see those empty cans. The room of hair, human hair, 7 tons of human hair stacked in a case that was probably about 20 feet high. So imagine, the roof of the room that you're in right now, stacked with 7 tons of human hair. There are no words for this. There are no words for what that experience is like, to stand there and look at tons of human hair. And again, knowing that this hair came from victims right before they went into the gas chambers. Powerful experience to see that. And the shoes. I'm one that has a shoe for every season, and I have shoes for work, and I have hiking boots, and I have slippers, and I have probably about 12 pairs of shoes. And in the 1930s, that wasn't the case for people. Most people didn't have 12, 13, 15 pairs of shoes. But you think about the idea that one pair of shoes is equal to a person. And I'm seeing a case that had over 100,000 shoes in them. Shoes for, again, just looking at those shoes. When my students have gone to the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum in DC, that's the one thing that they always talk about, is being on that bridge, going across the shoes and seeing those shoes. So powerful to see that, so powerful an image of, just again, the idea that one pair of shoes represents a person. And again, just looking at this, we are the shoes. We are the last witnesses. We are the shoes from grandchildren and grandfathers from Prague, Paris, and Amsterdam. And because we are only made of fabric and leather and not of blood and flesh, each one of us avoided the hellfire. When people came on the trains, they brought luggage with them. And their luggage was sorted into an area of Auschwitz called Canada, a land of plenty. And that's where people's belongings were sorted: eyeglasses, Jewish artifacts, shoes, clothing. And the suitcases, including the name Newman, which was very eerie to see at the top of one of the cases, to see my last name, again, getting chills to see my last name in Auschwitz. And again, just like the experience of being at the Holocaust Museum in Israel at Yad Vashem, to see baby clothes and to see pictures of teenage kids on the walls here. We can see this is a blown up picture here, but you can see how tiny this picture is of that outfit or the shirt, probably of a 2-year-old, maybe less. But again, just thinking about what happened to children, with 1,500,000 children that were murdered in the Holocaust. At the end of the tour of Auschwitz I is the gas chamber, a smaller gas chamber than other ones that I've seen, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But to walk into this room, I remember I walked in, and I felt dizzy the second I went in there. I felt dizzy, and I leaned up against a wall because I was standing in a gas chamber. I was standing in this room where God only knows how many thousands of people were murdered. And I say this was a smaller gas chamber than they used because at Auschwitz-Birkenau, there were gas chambers that were made for 2,000 people at a time. And again, the ovens that were at Auschwitz I, without a doubt, just again, to walk through it, to see it, there are no words to express what I felt. There are no words to express the feeling of being inside of a gas chamber. There's nothing else like it. There's nothing that compares to it whatsoever. And the emotions I'm still trying to process. I was there a month ago, and I'm still trying to process what I experienced standing in those gas chambers, not only here, but also at Magdanek. And again, the guard tower, this is now Birkenau, Auschwitz-Birkenau. Again, the idea of standing at this site where in every documentary, this picture on the left, this is what we see in every documentary, the Arbeit macht frei and the guard tower leading into the tracks of Auschwitz-Birkenau. When they took a shuttle bus to get there, because it's about 3 miles away, and all I could do was stare at it. I couldn't take my eyes off it. I'm like, oh my God, again, I'm standing here in front of Birkenau, where the ramps were that separated men from women, that separated families for the last time. And again, a train car, knowing what happened on these train cars, that people were trapped, 150 people for days without food, without water, without toilets for 3-4 days, not knowing where they're going, in all types of weather, babies, old people. Again, the images of standing in front of the train and being on the tracks. Wow. That's all I can say is wow. And Auschwitz-Birkenau, now what I said about Auschwitz I is how small it was and how comparative, just 28 buildings. But Auschwitz-Birkenau, I couldn't see the end of. I couldn't believe how big it was. So if you look at this picture here on the left, all the way out here, you can see trees. That's where these are the barracks where the victims slept, if you can call it sleep. But all the way out here is where the barracks ended. And all of this, there's 21 barracks that go all the way out here to this field. And again, if you're looking at this picture, so you're looking at it in 2 different directions, this way going all the way toward the back, and this way going all the way toward where the barracks are. Again, I can't express to you how vast and how big Auschwitz-Birkenau was. And I said to my guide, I'm in shock. I can't believe how big this is. And she looked at me and she says, everybody says that. Everybody says how big it is and how they can't believe how big Auschwitz II is. 1,000 people living in one of the barracks, 7 or 8, 5, 6, 7, 8 people living on one of these bunks each, and no privacy. Again, the idea of dehumanization for people that did survive the selection process, the dehumanization process of toilets being like this, and the starvation and the lack of food and the lack of treatment, people being beaten, the long nights that people experience. Now, when I was there, it was about 50 degrees and it was a little chilly, but Poland gets extremely cold during the wintertime. So 1,000 people in this room with no heat whatsoever at minus 20 degrees, I can't even tell you, I can't even imagine to you what the nights were like at Auschwitz II. I can't imagine, or Auschwitz I for that matter. I can't imagine what the nights were like for people, what the dehumanization process was like for people. I just can't even imagine. And this is the gas chamber at Auschwitz II. This is one of the gas chambers. The Nazis blew this up before the Russians came to liberate this camp. And again, there is the idea of 2,000 people per experience, if you want to call it that, that were murdered at one time with the Zyklon B gas in this space. And so that was the first camp that I was at. That, of course, is Auschwitz. This is Plaszow. And Plaszow is the camp that, if you ever saw the movie Schindler's List, that after that camp was liberated, after the ghetto was liquidated, they moved everybody to Plaszow. And Plaszow is just a big open field. That's all Plaszow is. It's just a big open field. And here is what it looked like when it was going on, and this big open field. So I had to use the memory of Schindler's List as I was looking at this field and thinking about what happened, and looking and remembering, the camp commandant sniping people from his balcony, or the woman who was an engineer who talks about a building about to collapse, and because she says something, she's murdered for just making a comment or giving an instruction of some type. And the gravestones that were used to line the pavements and line the roadways for cars and trucks that led to, and these were Jewish gravestones that made the pavements. The next camp was Treblinka. Treblinka is in the middle of a forest. So the only thing that I experienced at Treblinka is just a big open field with nothing, no sound. There's no sound except for the rustling of the trees, because it is in the middle of a forest. And there's boulders besides this memorial. There are boulders all around Treblinka. And those boulders represent, there's 17,000 of them. And the 17,000 boulders represents the largest day of execution in the Treblinka camp history. And over the course of about a year and 3 months, 900,000 people were murdered at Treblinka. A lot of them were from the Warsaw Ghetto. And here's the boulders as I walk through Treblinka. And again, total silence. At one point, I was the only person on the field looking, and there was nobody else there. So I'm alone on the field in that dead silence. And Magdanek. This is the last camp, and this is the last camp that I was at. I wasn't ready for Magdanek. I wasn't ready for what I experienced at Magdanek. Magdanek, most people don't even know the name Magdanek as a camp, but when I was there, I learned that this was the first concentration camp that was liberated by the Russians, and they did not have it. The Nazis did not have a chance to blow it up. So when the Russians found it, they found the camp just as it was. And as I talked about with Auschwitz-Birkenau, the same thing is true about Magdanek. You cannot believe how big it was. I can tell you that right here is the road. And this is the end part of Magdanek. And all the way down there at the end of this road is where Magdanek ends. And you can see that in these two pictures as well, that there is just massive amounts of space for thousands and thousands of prisoners that were at Magdanek. Now, at Magdanek, the first thing that I came across at Magdanek was the gas chambers. That's the first building that we walked into, is the Magdanek gas chambers. There were 2 gas chambers at Magdanek. And again, words cannot describe the feeling of standing there. I still don't have words for it. I still have not been able to process it. It is so powerful to stand there and again, think about the last minutes that people had as they were going through the Magdanek gas chambers or the gas chambers at Treblinka or at Auschwitz. But to stand there, and I tried to make a video and I couldn't get any words out. I couldn't say anything because I was just speechless. I couldn't say anything standing at this space. And at Auschwitz I, there were about 100,000 shoes. At Magdanek, there was 800,000 shoes. So imagine, again, an entire barracks. This entire row here is filled with shoes. And there's a whole nother row over here. And there's a whole nother row over on this direction. And there's a whole other row beyond this direction. 800,000 shoes at the Magdanek camp. When people were murdered, this was the waiting room for the bodies before they were put into the ovens. Again, no words to describe standing in this room, knowing that bodies were stacked like logs before they went into the ovens. And this is the crematoria at Magdanek. Wow. 10 ovens that were used to burn the bodies of the victims. There are no words. There are no words for this experience. And I don't have any, even a month later. And at Magdanek, there is a memorial. This is the memorial pavilion, I guess you could say. And, you know, a picture doesn't really show how big this is, but probably, I would say probably maybe 1,000 people could be on the inside of this area. And when you're inside of this memorial, this is what you see in the inside, a mound of ashes of the victims. Speechless, no words to talk about what that mound of ashes felt like, to stand there and look at that mound of ashes in that space. There are no words, again, no words to describe how powerful each one of these places was. Again, they all have their own energy. They all had their own power. But I took 1,600 pictures when I was there, probably about 300 pictures in each place that I was at, as well as tours of different cities. But this is the most important picture that I took, and I didn't even realize that I took that picture until I got home. This is at Treblinka, and at one point I said before that I was, when I was at Treblinka, at one point I was the only person on the field. And as I was there, there was a group of Israeli students that was walking up to Magdanek and at the Treblinka area. And one of them had a flag. One of the Israeli students had a flag. He put the flag on that stone that says "Never Again." And about 2 seconds, just as I snapped that picture, the wind knocked that flag a little bit over, but I happened to grab that picture in the 2 seconds that it was standing. And I say that this is the most important picture of all of the pictures that I took when I was on the trip to Poland. So one last thing that I wanted to share, and that is this rock that I picked up at Auschwitz. Little stone, but I saw it and I picked this up, and I have this stone in my back pocket from now on. Every day it's been in my back pocket. It will continue to be in my back pocket as a remembrance of this trip, as a remembrance of what I experienced on the trip, and as a way of saying, I have no problems, is a way to put it. Whatever problem I'm going through is minuscule compared to the victims of that event of the Holocaust. So this is like, again, not only a memorial to the victims, but also a grounding thing to make me realize how good I have it in life and how important every life is. So I want to thank everybody for your attention on the presentation. And I'm going to open it up to questions or anybody that has any comments or anything that they'd like to share. So thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate everybody being here.
Art, I wanted to say something. I saw this presentation the other night and I broke into terrible tears. And I'm very emotional again tonight because my mother and my paternal grandmother were in Auschwitz. My father was in Plaszow. He worked for Oskar Schindler. And I think we need to recognize that this was perpetrated by the intelligentsia of German society. This was put together by scientists, physicians, PhDs. There was a conference at Wannsee where they.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can I just introduce? This is Barbara Shaman, everybody. This is the woman that I was speaking about a few minutes ago, who created the Champions of Caring and Champions of Caring program, the Journey of a Champion curriculum, who again has influenced and changed my life in so many ways. The most important memories that I have as a teacher, the most significant memories, are because of her program and how important what she's done is. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate it. And I appreciate working with you and your students because it opened up my heart and my mind to the understanding that young people can comprehend evil and they can understand that they have a role in this world to make things better. That if we teach and reinforce kindness and empathy and caring and give them the tools to create social change, miracles happen. The projects that you saw with the autistic children, these were kids at Kensington who were sitting in a basement. No one ever interacted with these kids. And Art and I were talking about these kids. Why can't other students come and meet them? And what happened was this beautiful friendship that evolved. One kid, Art, took a kid to the prom. It was so enriching that when you bring people together, miracles happen. When we came up with the idea of bringing the Holocaust survivors from Jewish Family Service to Kensington High School, the survivors were afraid to go. What could I tell one of these kids about my life? Would they understand? Would they even want to meet me? And I'm sure the Kensington kids were anxious, but the relationships that were formed by these two very disparate and different populations was so powerful. They became parents and grandparents to these children, and the children needed this love and affection, and the survivors needed someone to tell their story to, and to say, if I could get through what I got through, whatever is troubling you, you can get through that as well. And that level of support and teaching kindness and empathy, I just want to say, I'm seeing some of the students on the call tonight, and I'd love to hear from you. The other day, we had a student who was actually part of the group with the Holocaust survivors, and he shared how this changed his life forever. So I, in my heart, intuitively know that when you bring old and young, rich and poor, black and white, gay and straight together, and you say to them, we have a problem in this world. Think about what impacts you, because I never tell kids what the problem is, but there are many problems. Find one that resonates for you, and let's find solutions. And that's what Art has done so magnificently. at Kensington High School. Whether it's today's this anniversary of Sandy Hook. I remember when you did that butterfly project and how beautiful that was. It opened up the hearts and minds of young people that they can impact significant change in a society. And I want to keep working with you. And I want to get the word out that everyone can make a difference.
Yep.
Everyone can make a difference. That if you care about something and you come together with people, different people, not just your friends and family, but people of all different backgrounds, the richness of that experience is life-changing.
Yep.
And we're creating a documentary right now. Saturday, we're filming a trailer, and these kids come from different schools, they're different races, different religions, and they talk about the Holocaust Museum trip, because I've been talking to them all week, and how that influenced their lives. But I want to end by saying something. I see the strength and the resilience of the survivors. That's what I was taught by my parents. I don't focus on the tragedy. I focus on the human spirit that can rise up and say, I can make a better world. And that's what I encourage you, your students, everyone on the call, that each of us has the capability to look at the shape the world is in and say, I don't like that. I'm going to do something about it. So my challenge to all of you is to stand up and speak out so that never again does any group of people have to suffer like this, because hate against any group is hate against every group. And I don't have to tell you about the anti-Semitism and the hatred that's being talked about right now. It has to stop, and it stops when good people like all of us do something. So thank you, Art, for being such an extraordinary teacher, for letting us into your school, for opening us up with wonderful kids. And I see some of them on the call, and I would so love to hear any of your impressions about the Holocaust trip. And Shanika, I'm looking at you, and I want to give you the biggest hug.
So I'm seeing a couple people here right now, which is wonderful, that were part of this. So some people I haven't seen for many, many years now, but just to see them. So before I do that, but I want to say also that Miss Deppenschmidt is here as well. She was our teacher that was involved with our autistic kids, and there are, as I'm seeing, two people that are on right now, Shanice Blake and Jose Rivera, who were both part of those classes with the autistic kids and went on the Holocaust trip. So it's wonderful to see both of you. Again, I haven't seen you for a long, long time. But if I could have either one of you go on your mic and talk about what the Holocaust Museum experience was like for you and how it influenced you now, 12 years later or 15 years later, that'd be great.
So, hey everyone, I'm Shanice. I went to DC last summer, and before I left, I was telling all my friends we went for leisure, but I said before we leave, we have to go to the Holocaust Museum. Like I always talk about Anne Frank. I said it was always one of my favorite stories to read about. So I took my friends, and it was just like, it was mind blowing to them. Like I explained it. I said I did this back in like 10th grade. So I appreciate it to this day. And one other thing I would like to add is I actually work for the school district as a school safety officer. And when it comes to separation, like we always had issues with having the emotional support kids and the other students like in one lunchroom together. So I just came up with an idea. I'm like, we have to find like some type of icebreaker to get everyone to be able to get along. So now if you come to my school, it's like you'll see emotional support in the lunchroom and all the kids are getting along. And it's like, it took some time, but we are there. And I'm actually finishing my master's program this weekend. It's in organization and leadership, and I'm majoring in nonprofit because in the next year, I do want to open up a nonprofit for, like trouble, kids at risk of just like dropping out of school, going to jail and stuff like that. Because I feel like, the children today, they are the future. Like they are the next nurses and doctors and, scientists and stuff like that. So I said I have to make it to the Zoom. I missed the other one because I was doing homework because I'm done at the end of the week. but I said I had to come. And I appreciate
Wonderful.
everything, Mr. Newman. You
Wow.
still look the same. I can't believe it.
That's great.
Yep.
And so do you. That's great. I'm so glad to see you. I'm so glad that that trip impacted you the way that it did, and working with the autistic kids. So I just got a private chat message from Angela Santos, who is here. So I would love for Angela, if you can go on your computer and go on your mic, that would be great.
Hi, can you see me?
Wow. Again, I haven't seen you for probably 14, 15 years. But...
I know, I'm starting to feel old. Like Mr. Newman said, my name is Angela. I went to Kensington Business, and I was probably one of the, I'm not sure if my class one was one of the first classes that went to DC.
Right.
But I do remember speakers coming to class. I do remember I believe we had two speakers. I do believe one of the speakers came and he even gave out coins. That's how much I remember it.
Yeah, wow, I totally forgot about that. Wow, that's great.
Coins. We went to the museum, and I remember it was cold. It was super cold when we went. We had all the buses lined up outside. And I was just so excited to go see what we talked about in class and what we seen in videos. And going there, again, I didn't speak a lot of English at that time, and I could barely understand what was being said, but I did get the message. And when I got there, it was just heartbreaking. I remember breaking into tears when seeing the books, seeing the items in there of people that own these pieces and that to end up across the country. And I just couldn't imagine, because I myself migrated from somewhere else, but at least I had my family. At least I had a foundation. At least I had my sister. I just couldn't imagine people my age being displaced in different places without a mom, without a dad. And then I just don't know. It was just life-changing. And to go back to working with the autistic kids that were in the basement, I remember that. I remember that we got together to clean the community, and then we went to the park. And I even have pictures of that. And then I think we did a bowling trip.
Yeah, right.
All together, yeah. And it was just life-changing. All that to say that I became a social worker later on in life.
Wow.
For abused and neglected children in our community. I've worked with older adults, and I worked in prisons, in the Philadelphia prison system. And if all that foundation that I have of having kindness and seeing what people go through, like you said, I have no troubles. And I'm here to serve the community, and I'm here to serve people. But believe it or not, your work does go a long way. And I do have that foundation because of you, and because you were the one teacher that cared to go above and beyond, to do everything that you could to teach us. And then I know it was hard. I remember it was hard because it was a challenging group. It was very hard, but I do remember, and it did impact my life. Still does.
Wow. That's so wonderful to hear that. And again, I haven't seen you I'm seeing on Zoom, but I haven't seen you for probably 15 years. Shanice, same thing. Wow. It's powerful. And again, just to talk about Angela for a second, I had the kids do an art project, and I wish I had it too. I wish I took a picture of it because it was so beautiful. She made and again, I still remember this. You made it was a set of bowls on a piece of cardboard, and it was like beautiful porcelain bowls that were in the front.
Yep.
And as those bowls went past, it was like, this is before the Holocaust, with these beautiful porcelain bowls, and then these really raggedy, disgusting looking bowls for the Holocaust. I'm like, just so simple and yet so profound. Like, wow, look at this. This is, taking something that's so beautiful and creating that, and then, having a life, just a regular life, and then creating that little bowl that just looked like it came out of the trash. Wow, that was still very impactful. That's so beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. And I see Jose Rivera is here also. So one other student is here that I know, and his mom and him, they both went on the Holocaust Museum trip together. So if I could have Jose Rivera, if you can go online, that would be great. If you can, are you there, Jose? No? Okay, well, maybe we'll come back to that. But again, what a beautiful experience this was. So if anybody, I'd like to have anybody that's online with us right now. There are people that I invited from Holocaust communities around the United States to join us today. If anybody would like to go online or leave a message in the chat, I would love to have you either speak out loud or to leave a message in the chat and share with us who you are and what organization you represent.
Hi, Art. David Rosenberg. It's been a while.
Hi,
how are you?
Good to see you.
Thank you. Good, thank you. My name is David Rosenberg. I'm past chair of Champions of Caring. I've had the pleasure and opportunity to work with Art in the past, and my life was changed as well over lunch with Barbara Shaman. Art, you've obviously changed a lot of lives here. I'd just like to thank you for sharing your experiences with us. It's amazing the work that you continue to do. It's a struggle I know every day, and I'd just like to thank you for changing so many lives, and you've obviously changed the world. Just wondering where you go from here with what you've prepared, and is there a bigger project that you have in mind in terms of teaching the lessons of the Holocaust and what you have done and what you have shared with your students and the community?
So that's a great question. I'm making this announcement for the first time. I don't even think my mom and dad know about this yet. So my mom and dad are on there. So hi, Mom and Dad. Hi, how are you? There they are right there. But I just yesterday signed up for a master's degree program in instructional design and technology. So I am going to be hopefully writing curriculum, online curriculum for the Holocaust over the course of the next year and a half that I'm doing this program. So I don't want this to end. Obviously it can't, it's a continuation of life, but I would love to expand what I'm doing beyond Kensington and make it come alive so that more and more people can be influenced by what this experience was for me.
Thanks very much, Art. Appreciate it. Look forward to the next project.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming. Somebody else, anybody else would like to share or comment? I did ask some of my students that I have right now. There's a class that I am going to be doing the Champions of Caring program, the Journey of a Champion program with. I do have 6 classes this year, but there was one class that I spoke to a couple days ago and I said, you guys are it. You guys are the ones that this year I'm gonna go after because you guys are awesome. So, you know, so I'm like, all right, I'm getting pumped up for it. So anybody that is in this class this year that would like to share anything or comment on what you heard.
Could I go?
Yeah, sure. So this is Dante. He's in my class this year, so welcome.
Hello, I'm Dante. As Mr. Newman said, I'm a part of his class this year. And I just want to say throughout the entire Zoom meeting, I was scrolling through to see everyone's faces and reactions to what Mr. Newman was saying. And after hearing how traumatic that experience was and being in the Holocaust and just being affected by what has happened, I can just view it as nothing more than awe-inspiring. I cannot see y'all as anything but extremely strong people, and I will look up to you in that fact.
Thank you. Wow, wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate that very much. It's again,
this is Arthur Edelson. I apologize for hiding my face, but I couldn't figure out once I got online how to appear. But I want to thank you. I'm glad you posted a comment on Facebook this morning. I certainly thoroughly enjoyed the presentation. And as I mentioned to you in the message, that I'm planning a trip probably about 6-7 months from now to do something very similar. I'm hoping my grandchildren will accompany me, but that's to be seen. But I want to thank you. It was very informative, all the different concentration camps and what it was like. It was, I thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining me today. So I'm on
Hi, this is Sherry Rosenblum with the Jewish
Hi.
Partisan Educational Foundation. Can you hear me?
Hi, how are you?
Yes. So we're in San Francisco, and thank you for inviting us online.
Thank you.
I put our email or our website address. We have tremendous educational resources about Jewish resistance during the Holocaust and about the armed resistance of the Jewish partisans. I sent you, Arthur, my email address. I'd love for you to get in touch with me because we're going to be looking for curriculum writers.
Wow, wonderful.
So thank you for inviting us and for sharing your experience with us. And I'm excited to see that there were so many students on here, and you guys would probably really love our website because it's all about teenagers who fought back against the Nazis and their collaborators. So if you have a chance to go on, I think you'll really like to see how these young people were empowered to fight back. And so many of them were women, which is really inspiring.
Wow, that's
and
wonderful.
I'm sorry for not sharing my my video, but I have a very bad cold. Nobody wants to see that.
Well, I do thank you for coming. I this morning again, I put out a message to about 15 different Holocaust organizations for them to join us. So again, I am so honored that you're here. I will definitely be in touch with you in the coming days about our experience. Great. Thank you so much. Thank you. Any teachers that are out there that would like to make any comments or anything that you'd like to share? Deb, I would love, Miss Deppenschmidt, I'd love to hear you talk about how your kids experience that.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kristen Deppenschmidt, and I'm still in the basement. I'm still in the basement. I love what I do. The time that I got together with Mr. Newman and his students, it was very moving for me because when I'm at school, I'm a protector, I'm a mom for all my students in the basement. And any type of cross, meshing in the school, there's always a lot of questions or almost like the plague. We're reading the book Wonder right now in my class, and regular ed kids often think, can I catch it? Am I going to be weird like them? Am I going to do the things that I do? And when we got our classes together and people were educated, it really changed the dynamics of the student body that were involved. I still have students that I'm connected with that will call and talk about Mr. Newman's class and getting together with them. And I just texted Art and said, if you're doing, the Champions of Caring and you want to mesh our classes again, I'm more than happy to figure out how to do it within, our days, because it was well worth it before. Mm-hmm. And I know in the building now it's lacking again.
Right.
I mean, it's just kind of died down, and I'd be more than willing to work with you. And I'm moved this summer. We took my family, we went to Amsterdam and we visited the Anne Frank Museum. And that was to be standing in the rooms where Anne Frank lived in the attic.
Yeah.
Janice, if you could go, it is a trip that the book just doesn't do justice of being there. Right. And we've done trips with my own family to concentration camps, and to take people from the United States and put their feet on the land of where history happened. Like if there was a way to channel money to have more students, more people from our area go and experience that, it would change so many more lives.
Yeah.
So many more lives.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I mean, just the idea of my experience to have inner city African-American and Latino kids walking through Auschwitz. I can't even imagine what that would be like for our kids.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
And stumbling stones.
Right.
I don't know if anybody's ever experienced stumbling stones, but they're brass stones that are put in the ground, and they're purposely made for people to trip, so that you trip on the pavement and you look up and you read the names of the Jewish families that are gone. Whereas in the United States, if you trip on somebody's pavement, you're suing somebody. And they're like, you are tripping just to acknowledge and give time and respect for people whose lives were taken too soon.
Wow.
And it's just it impacts your life and it changes things.
Yeah.
Changes things.
Yeah.
And for the kids that worked with my kids years ago, thank you for being nice.
Well, and again, just on that note, like Miss Deppenschmidt and I worked together for probably we worked together a lot of hours getting my kids prepared for that experience, where she would come in and talk about autism and dispel those stereotypes that were going on, which again was so powerful. How many stereotypes do we hear about race right now, or religion, or gender, or whatever the case may be? We're filled with it every day, and the stereotypes. I wrote my master's thesis on it 15 years ago. Stereotypes lead to prejudice. Prejudice leads to discrimination. Discrimination leads to hatred. Hatred leads to gas chambers. It's a process. And I strongly believe that we are in a position right now in our country where I'm 51 years old. I have never seen the divisions in this country the way that they are right now. I've never seen anything like it. And it seems to me that the conversations have stopped. The conversations about getting together and having empathy, compassion, and sympathy for others is gone. And we need to bring that back. Yeah, that's my personal opinion, on that. I think that we're in a very, very sad state of affairs in the United States right now, and things need to change.
Last time we were doing this right before COVID broke out, we brought in students from the School of Entrepreneurship at Drexel who really love being part of this project. And I'm still guest lecturing in that school. I can envision bringing in, if you want, some of those college students to help put together these projects with your students. I know that the bonding between the high school kids, the college kids, myself, Beth, and some of the staff, and of course with Art, is so essential that we show our humanity and we map out a plan to bring people together. I mean, right now, my vision is that hate against anyone is hate against everyone, and that we start in every one of these schools with a program to say, this is not acceptable in this building. And I would love if we could think about how we could sit down with Doc, the principal, and figure out how we start this campaign at Kensington High School.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So a couple minutes ago, I asked, I don't know if Jose Rivera is still around, but if you could go on your mic for a second and share about your experience at the Holocaust Museum. Jose, are you there? Okay. All right. So we, again, I want to thank everybody. We've been online for about 75 minutes now. If anybody has any other comments or any other things that they'd like to, I know a lot of us have to get up for work tomorrow and go to sleep. So if anybody would like to add anything.
Art, my name is Allison Vick, and I've got my camera off because I'm here in my pajamas with two very little girls. But
Hello.
anyway, I'm in Knoxville, so I'm the historian for the Tennessee State Holocaust Commission.
Oh, welcome, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us. And I'm also a history professor at community college in Knoxville. So this has been fantastic. I have learned so much that I think about, you know, from both the historical perspective and the pedagogical perspective, the things that I want to do in my classroom and ways to work with my students. You know, we're a small college. We have an incredibly diverse campus for being, you know, Knoxville, Tennessee. People don't necessarily automatically think that, but we really do have a very diverse group of students. So this has been really, really engaging. And then also from the historical perspective, I cannot tell you, and my husband was on the other side of the room listening to you speak as well. And he's like, wow, the things he says about the camps, because I was at Auschwitz, I went to Płaszów in January of 2016. And I can tell you, I will remember January 8th, 2016, standing at Płaszów forever, every single day. And when you mentioned the stone from Auschwitz, I just cried, because I remember being at Auschwitz and seeing the 4 different memorial stones for the victims, one written in, you know, in Hebrew and in other languages. And then there was one in Polish, and 3 of the 4 stones, or actually the memorial stones, had stones that people would put on top in remembrance of the victims, but there was not one for the Polish victims up there at that moment. And I thought, oh my gosh, we can't have this. And so I remember picking up a little round stone like what you've got from Auschwitz and setting it up there. So much of what you said, I thought, in the size and the scope of Auschwitz II Birkenau, it's like you said, it's transformative and it's introspective in so many different ways. And I'd really love to see more of your photos. I really, as jarring of an experience as it is to visit those places, I want to go back to continue learning and thinking about how to apply it in my classrooms and with the programming we do in Tennessee. So I'd love to see more of your photos of Treblinka and Majdanek and so Donek and so forth. So if you could put your email or share your email, I think it may be in chat already. I would love to.
Yes. I just did. So anybody that wants my, this is my ARNEWMAN at Phila SD. I just posted that. So if anybody would like to get in touch with me, I would love to get in touch with everybody that's here. So please put anything into the chat. I'll once the meeting is over, I'll screenshot the chat so that I have it and I have your emails. But if you could put your emails into that chat, that would be wonderful.
Arthur.
So again, thank you so much, Allison. Thank you again for coming. Again, just a shot in the dark that I posted this to different Holocaust museums, and I'm so glad that you're here. I'm so glad that you are witnessing my experience and we're here to share that with me. Thank you so much, and I'll be in touch with you as well. My Aunt Madge is here. Hello.
Right. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I just want to say how proud I am of my handsome, wonderful nephew. Not very many of us make such a difference in lives as you have. And hearing your passion and knowing you as the little Hebrew schoolboy that you were, and just how much you loved it and how meaningful it always has been for you. And I know how proud your mother and father are, and I'm blown away, kiddo. You're terrific. Love you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. It means a lot. It means a lot to me. Thank you very much. All right. So again, I want to thank everybody for coming today. I definitely, I love this experience today. For anybody that was on Sunday as well, it's been a wonderful experience being and sharing this experience with everybody. I hope to be with you again in the future. And so again, thank you all so much. Any last words for anybody? If not, I will say thank you, and I will see everybody either tomorrow or somewhere around. So happy New Year, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, happy Hanukkah, and bye-bye, everybody.
All right, have a good one.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
No problem.
What an amazing turnout.
It's wonderful.
Wow.
I'm so happy.
And to see your students.
I see Jose there. I see Jose. Hi, Jose. If you see me, can you wave for me, Jose? There? No. Okay.
He put in the chat that his mic and his camera is like not working.
Okay, got it. Okay. All right. So yes, it was wonderful. It was wonderful. It was a great turnout again. It's wonderful to be here. It really is. I'm so glad that I get the opportunity to share this experience with everybody.
And you made some very interesting connections.
I know.
Which is great.
That's wonderful. I'm really happy about that too, because now I can, just again, that networking of talking to other people and other people that have a shared mindset about the Holocaust education. So powerful, so important.
Jose is back.
Oh, and I see Jose. Hi, Jose. If you can see me, just wave hi.
Hi.
Hey, buddy. How you doing? So,
I'm fine,
yeah, doing great. I haven't seen you for many, many years. In fact, I think the last time I saw you, we were on the street together and I just happened to bump into you. I don't know if you remember that. That was a while ago.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. I was trying to get in touch with you during the call, but
I'm sorry.
I
was at work at the time. So.
So tell me, what do you remember most about? I mean, we're going back with you to 2006 on that Holocaust trip. So what do you remember most about being on that trip?
I mean, well, words can't describe. Even to this day, I still study a lot about the Holocaust. So.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, being there with my mom and seeing, like all the stuff that, hearing all the stories, seeing the shoes. I mean, the shoes really is what really got me the most, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow.
And hearing that speech from the Holocaust survivor.
We were in the auditorium at the museum and we saw a survivor that was talking. That was the first time they saw a survivor. So it was very powerful to see that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that actually made my mom upset.
Yeah, it was. I don't know if you remember this woman, Barb, and she's a speaker at the Holocaust Museum a lot. She was one of the Forest children, and she was talking about her experience. And I still remember that too. It was one of my first times ever at the museum, and she was talking about how she was hidden and she lived in the forest. Her mom, doesn't know what happened to her mom. One day she woke up and mom wasn't there anymore, and she was 5-6 years old at the time. So I don't know if you ever saw her or experienced her speech, or if you remember that. Does that sound familiar, Barb?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we went so many times, and frequently my mother was the speaker.
Oh, wow.
She shared her story. And I remember how the students would go up, they want to take pictures with her, hug her, because they had never met a survivor. And my mother was a very positive, optimistic person. She didn't dwell on the negative. She dwelled on hope and resilience.
Amazing.
Making the world a better place.
Amazing. That's incredible. Again, we've done so much with the Holocaust, Barb, that I totally forgot about Judy Meisel. And Judy Meisel coming into my classroom,
She just died.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, right before the pandemic, I believe.
And she marched with Martin Luther King.
Amazing.
Yeah. To come back from that experience and be so involved.
Yeah. So she was one of the first women, or the first Holocaust survivors that came to Kensington, even before we even went to the museum together, before we even met. I think maybe that was that year, but I remember how my students were so gripped by her story. And
amazing woman.
It was incredible. Wow, I totally forgot about that until just now. It's like, wow, Judy Meisel. I have her pictures, and I wish I could see her video again. Find her video.
We can find that for you. I know how to get that.
Yeah. So it was wonderful. Wonderful experience. So
can I need some of those pictures?
Yep.
let's figure out a way to get them. I want to include them in the documentary we're making.
Okay. All right. You got it. You got it.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, it was wonderful. It
was. So thank you all again. Mom, Dad, thank you. Thank you for coming again. You're not on your mic. You're not on your mic.
Okay.
There we go. Hello.
I've been on my phone for the last couple of minutes because I've been getting all these texts from my friends that were on saying how wonderful a speaker you were, how much they enjoyed your presentation, and thanking me for inviting them to join us.
That's wonderful.
Makes me very proud. What can I say? And
You're selling.
And one more thing, since not too many people are left, I will say you haven't changed from when you were a kid. Your mom is still the last to know of what you're up to.
That's true. That's very true. I'm sorry. Yes, I spread it out to everybody. Congratulations, right? Yo, I have an announcement to make.
Well, we're very proud of you, and we know you'll be a success in whatever you do.
Oh, thank you.
Amen.
And that's probably somebody else calling.
All right, so I'm going to hang up the line now, but thank you all for coming again. All right, thank you. Have a good night.
Let's talk, Art.
All right, Barb. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hello.